Hi, I want to welcome you to my program today. Today I'm going to bring a message that I'm probably just going to call it the end. You know, as Christians, we come across situations in our life that it feels like, looks like, sounds like the end. But God always has a different finish for the Christian. And so I want us to talk about, probably this video and several others, we're going to talk about the end stories from the Bible. See if we can compare them to today. I thought I would start with one that kind of been hearing a lot about, especially the past several months. It seems like we've referred to it. I know I have. And that would be the Red Sea. So, the end, was it? Let's look at the story. Exodus chapter 3, and let's begin in verse 18. Then they will heed your voice, and you shall come, you and the elders of Israel. Now this is God talking to Moses. To the king of Egypt, and you shall say to him, the Lord God of the Hebrews has met with us, and now, please let us go 3 days' journey into the wilderness, that we may sacrifice to the Lord our God. They wanted to travel 3 days outward to go and sacrifice to God. But, this is God, remember, but I am sure that the king of Egypt will not let you go. No, not even by a mighty hand. So I will stretch out my hand and strike Egypt with all the wonders which I will do in its midst. And after that he will let you go. And I will give this people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, and it shall be, when you go, that you shall not go empty-handed. But every woman shall ask of her neighbor, namely, of her who dwells near her house, articles of silver, articles of gold, and clothing, and you shall put them on your sons and your daughters. So you shall plunder the Egyptians. Well, we know that Moses did, in fact, go to the king, to Pharaoh. He did ask, and as God said, he wouldn't let him go. We know that there were many plagues that followed. And each time they got a little more difficult to deal with, more burdensome, more harsh. And each time they would say, okay. But then they would change their mind and say, no, you're not going. Well, then came the death of the firstborn all across the land of the Egyptians, even down to their animals. And this time he said, yes, you can go. But once again, we know he changed his mind. Well, he is now in hot pursuit of the Israelites who had been released to go. And as they're going, they look back and they see that they're being pursued. You know, at this point, they have gotten to the Red Sea. They can't go left, they can't go right, and they can't go backward. The only thing that faces them in the natural was certain death. No matter where they turned, certain death. And we know that God and Moses worked together, and that God tells Moses what to do. He does it, and the waters are parted. Not only that, God breathes and blows a breath of air across the bed of that, and he dries it up. And now then, the Israelites, they're marching forward on dry land. Where's the water? Oh, it's stacked up on either side of them. Did you get that word, stacked up? It's just piled up. I would wonder, I'm going to be an Israelite for a moment. And I'm walking across, yes, dry land. And yes, I watched I've watched it with my eyes. I watched the water go this way and that way, and then suddenly the mud turned into dry ground. And now I'm supposed to walk across. Well, this is good, because look, they're behind me. I can't go anywhere else. But I've got to trust God to hold this water up. I've got to trust God that this water, this massive amount of water, will stay there. You know, even when God performs a miracle, in the midst of the miracle requires our trust. A miracle is supernatural, not something we could do. If we could, we would. But it's something we cannot do. And in the midst of a miracle, we must trust God. Now, they are walking across on dry land. But in hot pursuit are the Egyptians. They decided that the Israelites are going across. Yes, the water's on both sides, but look, it's dry. Let's just head on out. And they don't have their eyes on trusting God. They've got their eyes on vengeance. We're going forward. And so they keep their eyes on the vengeance, getting those Israelites, and we're going to bring them back or kill them, one or the other. And suddenly God begins to mess with them, and their chariot wheels begin to fall off. And things just aren't going right as they're going across. Now, our Israelites by this time have stretched on across the waters, the dry bed, and they are on the safety of the land. But these Egyptians, they are now in a situation, they're in too deep. They can't turn back, and they don't seem to be making it across either. Certainly they can't go left and right. There's the walls of water. And now what happens? Once the last Israelite is across, and the Egyptians are already feeling the struggle, God just covers them up. You see, what appeared to be the Israelites' end, they had to walk through a miracle. Yes, it was an awesome miracle, and we often sing about the dry bed, but remember the wet walls of water. God held that back. They saw it. They had to trust God in the midst of their miracle. What appeared to be the end for them was the end for the enemy. Now, in our life, even this day, what have we called the end? Or are we walking across a mighty miracle? Is God holding water back on either side? Where are your eyes? Are your eyes on God? Are your eyes excited with the God that we serve that would hold water back as we walk across? Are your eyes just in awe? Have you pointed to your children and said, look what God is doing? We're walking on dry land. But those that don't know God, they don't have their eyes on God, need to be very careful, because we don't want to find ourselves in a situation that we can't turn back and that we have no trust. You see, God will help His children every time. Every time. God is our protector. Psalm 91. Under the shadow of the mighty Almighty. Even walking across a dry bed requires trust. In the midst of your miracle, what appeared to be the end was in fact the end, but not for God's children. Be encouraged today if you have thought or heard it was the end for God's children. Read the book. I did. In Exodus chapter 3, he says, "Oh, but every woman shall ask of her neighbor, namely, of her who dwells near her house, articles of silver, articles of gold, and clothing, and you shall put them on your sons and your daughters, so you shall plunder the Egyptians on the way out." They entered the other side of the dry land, filled with gold and silver and beautiful clothing. Do not give up on God. This is when you walk across in awe. Walk across in awe. We serve a mighty big God. Get excited today. It's not the end. Thank you for staying with me. I'll be teaching more on these subjects for the next couple of times. God has just put this in my spirit, and I want to keep going with it. So tell a friend. Stay with us. Keep coming back. Worship God. Be excited. Celebrate the God we serve. It is not the end for the Christian. It's a whole new life. God bless you.